All right, it's time to learn about hooks. Now, the very first thing that we need to answer is, what are hooks? Well, if we take a look at the documentation, there's a section here that says, what is a hook? And we see over here that hooks are a function that let you hook into React state and lifecycle features for function components. Hooks don't work inside classes. And that's the thing. All hooks are is if we go to our container, the app.js, let's minimize this. There you go. The app.js is using a class component. And remember, hooks are a way for us to avoid using classes so that we can avoid the super keyword, the this keyword that some people find confusing. Even things like component did mount, that these lifecycle hooks that sometimes can get confusing. So hooks allow us to use functional components, which remember, we have talked about. Our components are functional components, right? They're just functions that render something. But before hooks, we only created functional components once when we didn't have any state inside of them. All these components are what we call just presentational components, right? They just return something, they just receive props and return some sort of a view. But anytime we wanted to use state, we had to convert those functions into a class component so that we can do this .state and declare our state. With hooks, what you get is that you can now add state to a function. So because we have version 16.8 or higher of React, we can convert this app class into a function. Now, here's the thing. I want you to practice reading documentation here. Oftentimes, whenever we are introduced to a new concept, our default is to, hey, let's go find a tutorial online. Let's go buy a course that teaches us this. But the best resource is usually the documentation. The documentation is created by the people that actually created React, actually created the hooks API. So they usually have good resources for you to learn and use. So as an exercise, before we dive into the next video and I show you how we can start converting this with hooks, I want you to go into the hook section of the React documentation and see if you can figure out how to keep this app the exact same way that it is. It still works. You can still search through your robot friends, but you convert this class app into a functional component. And instead of having things like constructor or component did mount, to just convert this all into using hooks. I'll give you a little hint. In order for us to do this, we'll have to import two things from React that we now have available because we've updated. One is something called useState, which is a hook. So it's called the useState hook. And the other one is called the useEffect, which is another hook. You see, hooks essentially give us that. They give us hooks like this from the React library for us to implement and use inside of our functional component to finally have state and lifecycle methods. So if you want to give it a go and convert this into a functional component that uses hooks, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll show you how to do this in the next video. Bye-bye.